Yo bro, how's it going man? You alright? Yeah man. Hey, you know what, I just got a drop on the iPhone SE. Yeah, the new one. You know what, just get by to the studio so we can review it ASAP. Alright man, speak to you soon. Take care. Hey everyone, I hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome to another video, and here we have it, the new 3rd generation iPhone SE. This upgrade has been long awaited. As always, Apple always know how to maintain that satisfying feeling when unboxing their products. The box has subtle details that make its minimal design stand out. Turning it around, all we need to do is pull away the strips in the direction indicated by the green arrow. At the back of the box we can see the specs. I ended up going for the base model, which comes at a storage of 64 GB. Yes, I know this is not much, but this is the kind of phone I will be using as a backup when traveling, so I won't be storing many things on it. Opening it up is just as satisfying as it can get. We are faced with the iPhone. This particular one that I went for is Starlight, and I genuinely think it looks really cool with its glossy finish. Removing the plastic covering on the phone is just music to my ears. I mean, just have a listen. There's also a USB-C to Lightning cable and the Designed by Apple California that is carefully printed on the insert, which contains the SIM card tray eject pin, the Apple sticker, which is always awesome to see, and a booklet which no one ever checks or reads. However, Apple are still not including a power adapter and headphones in the box. I find this very interesting because a phone like this would be aimed at those who are maybe just getting their first iPhone. But then again, Apple are still firm on reaching their environmental goals. As with all iPhones, the setup process is flawless. Especially if you have an iPhone, all you have to do is scan this really cool looking image right here and you're all good to go. The 2022 iPhone SE has gotten a price hike over its predecessor to $429 or £419, but it still qualifies as Apple's cheapest 5G phone. However, it is more than a little frustrating that Apple insists on offering a phone with just 64 GB of storage to start with, considering that the phone can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second video, so therefore you can expect the file size to be pretty big. The issue is compounded because the iPhone SE tops out at 256 GB, which goes at a price of $579 or £569, though there's also a 128 GB option for $479 or £469. But if you're considering the 256 GB iPhone SE at that price, then I personally think you should really start thinking about one of the iPhone 13 models. As you may have noticed, Apple have not made any changes to the chassis of this iPhone, and have stuck with the same design from the previous model. The aluminium enclosure is smooth and clean. I went for the Starlight colour that is basically similar to white, but it has a distinctively warmer shade that is almost pearl or cream coloured. The silver edges contain a hint of gold to match the warmer look of the iPhone. The glass back and front are perfectly smooth, along with a relatively tiny 12 megapixel wide angle camera on the back. The sapphire glass lens covers the distance from the back plane, which can be measured in a millimeter. I love how thin it looks, as there are almost no edges. It comes at a height of 138.4mm, a width of 67.3mm, and a depth of 7.3mm, and the weight of this device sits at 144 grams, so it's an actual feather to carry around. Along the left edge are the volume buttons and a sleep silence switch, while on the right are the power button and the SIM slot. The bottom edge features the speaker grills, microphone and lightning port. The front features the 1344 by 750 pixel liquid retina display, which looks great on its own but literally pales in comparison to, for instance, the iPhone 13 Pro Max's edge-to-edge Super Retina XDR display OLED screen. Above the screen is the 7-megapixel FaceTime selfie camera, which sits next to a wide shallow speaker grille. Below all that is our old friend, the Touch ID home button. We've been living with Face ID home button free iPhones for so long, so it's good to see it still being offered. For what it's worth, Apple's Touch ID remains one of the most effective biometric authorization technologies we've ever used. Register a finger once and the reader will see it every time in virtually any position. The 2022 iPhone SE is also water and dust resistant with IP67 certification. There is no 3.5mm headphone jack on the phone, but it does have a lightning charging port which could accommodate a pair of lightning earbuds. And at the same time you can also make use of your wireless AirPods if you have them. Both the front and back of this iPhone are built from the same glass that's on the back of all iPhone 13 models. Sadly though, the SE doesn't get Apple's ceramic shield technology. So if you buy this phone, it still makes sense to spring for that silicone case. This one I'm using right here is from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. If you're upgrading from an iPhone 5S, the iPhone SE's 4.7-inch screen might feel like an upgrade. But in a world of monster-sized displays that have a 2,000,000:1 contrast ratio and adaptive refresh rates, its 60Hz LCD cannot keep up. Don't get me wrong, the display looks good. Across a wide variety of tasks from photography and videography to web browsing, gameplay and video, it was able to hold up pretty well. However, the screen can struggle in direct sunlight, but indoors it's still a winner. I must point that the screen is not scratch resistant, so I would recommend you use a screen protector. This one that I'm using right here is from G-Tech. I will leave a link below if you want to check it out. The rear 12-megapixel camera has an f1.8 wide lens, which is now backed by the A15 Bionic's image processing and supported by Smart HDR4 and Deep Fusion. I tested out the camera in my studio and I was not only pleased by the image quality it produced, but with the speed as well. With optical image stabilization, it helped me to take crispy, clean photos. In portrait mode, you can adjust the aperture settings to control the depth of field effect, throwing more or less of the background behind your subject out of focus. The camera does support all the other expected photo styles, including panorama and time-lapse. And here is night time-lapse as well, which you can use with a tripod. Though there's no support for Apple's night mode still photography, which I personally found to be quite odd. On the video front, the iPhone SE can shoot all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second. The footage looks good on the screen, although some resolution is obviously lost in the 1334 by 750 display. And if you enjoy shooting in slow motion, the phone also shoots smooth 1080p at 240 frames per second slow motion. Despite having the A15 Bionic chip, there's no support for the cinematic mode video. Testing out the quality of portrait mode for both the front and back camera, I noticed it's now capable of picking up tiny details like wisps of hair and carefully separating them from the blurred background. Overall, I would say the photo and video quality on this mid-range phone is not so bad. Despite the lack of changes to the chassis, this device is powered by the A15 Bionic, which is Apple's most powerful mobile processor. To be clear, this is not some stunted or throttled version of Apple's chip. Geekbench 5 numbers put the iPhone SE on equal footing with the A15 Bionic in the iPhone 13 mini line. To further enhance the performance on this iPhone, it has 4GB of RAM, which will certainly help with the performance. Basically everything that's good or better about this phone, that includes 4K video shooting and editing, console level gaming, AI enhanced photography, is better because of the A15 Bionic. It helps to further push the boundaries of this phone. The third generation iPhone SE welcomes the SE line into the iPhone 5G family. This means we could turn off the Wi-Fi and download apps, play multiplayer games and stream HD Netflix without hesitation. Although it must be noted that 5G is still not available in some areas and its performance can be wildly inconsistent. The battery size of the 2022 iPhone SE comes at 2018 mAh, which is a boost from its predecessor that had 1821 mAh cell. This boost is actually needed to keep up with the more powerful A15 Bionic and that 5G connectivity. The reality is, even with 5G running all day and non-stop activity across a wide range of functions, I got about 12 hours of battery life. Although Apple does claim 15 hours of playback, I personally got about 12 hours. And when it comes to video playback, you can get about 15 hours. Although the battery size is bigger than the previous model, I just wish that Apple made a greater improvement to the battery. When it's time to recharge, you can do so with the included cable at 18 watts or by placing it on a key compatible charging base. I must add that this phone does not support Apple's new MagSafe chargers. In my opinion, I think this is a very interesting phone from Apple since it currently is the cheapest iPhone you can buy in 2022 with the latest processor and 5G, so if you are on a tight budget, this could be for you. If I had to give my opinion, I would recommend this phone if you're someone that wants a powerful processor and 5G to give you that peak performance and connectivity at a cheaper price than the other iPhones. And if you enjoy the classic design that many people still love. Although Touch ID is not being used by Apple's flagship iPhones, the Touch ID feature is still very sharp and prompt. If you're not a big fan of Apple's larger phones, then this would be for you. This is not only Apple's joint thinnest phone, it's basically the same weight as the iPhone 13 mini, but without the edges. So holding this device feels great. If you are an Android user and want to switch to Apple, then I think this would be an awesome introductory device if you want to get accustomed to the iOS interface. However, then again, there are some people that may think that the 4.7-inch display is way too small and struggles in direct sunlight. If you are someone that enjoys watching movies and games, this will not give you the best experience. As pointed out earlier, this device does not have Face ID, so if you're not a big fan of Touch ID, then this isn't for you. If you want Face ID for not much more, then I would recommend you check out the iPhone 11. The battery is not the best if you intend to use this device heavily. For me personally, it is ideal as I'm only using it as a backup phone. And if you're into content creation, I'd assume you'd want more lenses, but the photography and videography here is good, but limited. No zoom, no ultra wide, and the portrait mode is only limited to humans for some reason. I am going to be comparing this iPhone SE with the previous model in a future video, but for now I'm going to be using this device to see how well it can hold up when performing day-to-day tasks. I will talk to you guys soon, take care.